Epilogue. It was shining bright on the fields in the warm afternoon sun. Many of the people of Tantajo wandered the open streets to visit the vendors or visit the castle. Tantajo was known for tourists as it was the capital of the world and founding place of the recent legend. Most people spoke highly of the legend. Not a day went by without mention of the legendary hero defeating the Dark Lord and returning peace to the world. All cared, except for Eli. Eli is a teenage boy of 16, spending the pleasantly warm and breezy day in front of the church, tending to the various flowers. He has a small frame, thin enough to squeeze behind tight spaces, and is light on his feet to get around quickly. Most recruited his help for menial tasks as such, the priest being his number one employer. He didn't mind, however. They usually granted him a few coins or whatever leftover meals they had lying around. At the moment, all was fine, but he hoped to explore the world someday and not be relegated to an errand boy till his bones gave out. His peaceful time tending flowers soon came to an end as a stern voice came from the church. "What are you doing, Eli?" The young, lanky boy rises to his feet to see the priest. The priest is a plump man, adorned in a white robe with golden crosses to represent the goddess. Atop his head is a beretta where his thin gray hair recedes in. Eli hides his frustration from him, knowing the lecture he is going to receive, hoping being obedient will lessen his words. He turns his head, eyes on the young budding flowers. "My apologies, Father," he said, his voice battling in tone with his head. What does he want now? This is no time to be taking care of flowers. A valuable guest is here today to tell you the story of the hero's journey. Eli slightly shakes his head. Again, the old minstrel arrives, reading more of the rubbish he calls events. Can I please sit this one out? I promise to clean both sides of the pews. Nonsense, Eli. The dust of the pews can be cleaned whenever, but the stories he tells are once-in-a-lifetime moments. But Father, can you really believe his words? I mean, he talks as if he was there, putting his own input. Don't speak rudely about your elders. He has honored our town with great tales of the journey, and I won't let such slanderous words berate him. Now get in there, or I will have you working till dawn. Eli sighs. No use getting around him. Mindlessly following this old guy like he is a prophet to the goddess. Of course, Father. He sneaks in through the back of the church, quiet, not to disturb his telling. He lightly steps in. Small echoes accompany the old man's speech, but he suddenly stops. The old man's voice is calm like the nearby lake. I'm glad for you to join us, young man. We were just at the end. Young man? He isn't talking to me, is he? Eli thought. Sure, the floors are a bit creaky, but how did he know who I was? He peeks around the corner to where the pedestal is to find him at the head of the church, face deep in a large book. He wears a large hood to cover his face, and he sits still like a statue. While he expresses no emotion, the dozens of civilians sitting at the pews have a glare that can pierce through steel, like beasts watching slow-witted prey enter their den. He quietly steps over to the closest pew on the right side, taking a seat slowly to avoid any more sounds, merely a couple feet away from the old man. From the front, his mouth is barely visible, and other than the muted cloak and book, at his waist is a bright pink lyre. With a slight head tilt, the old man acknowledges Eli. Though his face is hidden, he has a relaxed air about him. From his peeking lips, he's not upset at the disturbance, rather understanding of Eli's nervousness. He peeks over at the book, ready to continue the story. Now, where was I? Oh, I remember. He coughs to clear his voice, presenting the story like a grand tale. And so Hotaru the hero was sent to the outside of Zoma's crumbling castle, thanks to the ancient spell, Zoom, her father cast before his great sacrifice. Soon she teleported with her brother outside on Zoma's plains to find the sky closing. However, eternal darkness wasn't what greeted them as Alfgard's people came to believe, but instead a star, lighting the world since the last millennium. The hero and her friends were brought to this very town to be awarded by its people a title, the title of Erdrick, hero of the dwelling land. With the dark world permanently sealed and with no way home for our heroes, they found new life in Alfgard. The wandering martial artist Isamu settled in the fortified city of Cantiln, aiding the researchers in their studies to create the golems that now guard the city, and training young warriors in his craft to have the lessons of his mentor live on through them. And though he has long passed, his teaching has continued to flourish as his style of battle is Cantiln's standard. Aziza, who would come to be known as the legendary mercenary, aided the world in rebuilding and clearing the roads of any dwelling monsters still under Zoma's banner. There wasn't a task or odd job she couldn't handle, though she was never afraid to call onto her friends for help. Her biggest mission in history is clearing the remains of Zoma's castle, wiping away any monsters and returning the isolated land back to nature. Fedir would be called by many the brilliant sage, even if he wasn't too keen on the name. He studied the new world, learning more of the goddess and of the ancient fairies who once roamed the land. He spent most of his years in the town of Kol, where it was said the fairies lived in peace. He never did learn much of them or the full understanding of his power. The old man hesitates, leaning harder into his book. Must be an old tome, Eli thought. The words are probably faded by now, or he is making the stuff up as he goes. Finally, Hotaru the hero aided the town in rebuilding Tantagel back to its former glory. Once complete, she settled down, bearing a few children before wandering aimlessly throughout the world. They say at the time she was reminiscing her father's words, leaving old relics behind to live in peace, escaping the hero's life she was given. He closes the book and sets it on the pedestal. Eli shakes his head, spreading his arms in confusion. That's it? The hero found life to be too hard and just gave up? Eli! The pudgy priest shouted, stomping over to the front pews. Eli turned around to the back of the church, and as they met, his eyes burned with rage. He knew the priest would never strike him, but the way he approached, Eli was unsure. However, halfway up the passageway and the minstrel spoke again. Their eyes didn't meet, but the calming voice of his soothed the furious priest like a magic spell. Please, Father, do not get mad at this child. It is only natural to be upset by an ending as such. The priest stops in his tracks, his lips quivering as the eyes of Tantagel's civilians pierce into him. My apologies, sir. The minstrel tilts his head over to Eli, his hood covering his face where only his gentle smile peeks out. What I like about stories is how everyone has their own interpretation to them, as everyone has experienced life ever so slightly. You may find the hero's departure frustrating and nonsensical, while I believe it to be different. Knowing that the hero has left her own world behind, watched as her grandmother and father have fallen before her, all at a youthful age. The stress of it all got to her. Most people would shut down after such hard trials as their losses never truly fade. I know I would. But if you want to hear a secret not in the many retellings, she took her husband and kids to live a normal life. Where? That is when the secret ends. He steps up from the stool he's been sitting on. Excuse me, everyone. I'm going to get some fresh air. I will gladly answer all your questions when I get back. The minstrel steps past the priest and makes for the door to the outside. Its bright light shines in like a gateway to the heavens. The people are quite upset at the circumstances. Most of their faces are disappointed by his departure, either upset at Eli's rude outburst, worrying of angering the minstrel to the point of no return. Most murmur over each other about the new details he revealed. The hero went to live outside the city? Where could she have gone? They said, getting louder by the second. The people leave the main hall of the church, entering one of the many side rooms where old tomes and artifacts are in place. While not straight from the minstrel, it seems to give them a quick fix over their obsession. Eli ponders in the lone main hall, trying to decipher his words like a new language. Again, the way he speaks makes him sound confident in his assumptions. How does he know the hero left Tantagel, or even the feeling she had? It doesn't make sense. However, the answer he seeks lies in front of him. The book. The minstrel's thick, brown-covered book remains on the pedestal like a holy artifact. His mind is racing as he peeks around. If the priest finds him, there is no telling the punishment he may receive, but guessing from today already, the church was going to be spotless like the first day it was built, whether he liked it or not. He lifts from the pews, standing at the head of the church, looking down at the empty seats. He feels a strange power from his view. No wonder Father likes standing up here. He takes a glance at the blank cover, not a single word at the front or back, as if it was a trap to capture thieves. Regardless of his gut feeling, he turns open the book and is left in shock. What is found is nothing like the old minstrel has said. Instead, what Eli was thinking. The book, each page, was completely blank. Eli follows the beautiful melody out of town. With the peaceful song and the open fields outside of Tantagel, it was like walking through a children's fable. The tall grass sparkles a healthy green in the warm sun. The nearby lake is a clear blue, where fish are seen swimming near the surface. Along the horizon are large and vast mountain ranges, where stories of other towns lie. Eli has always loved and respected nature. Sadly, he has spent his life in only Tantagel, but one thing he agrees with when it comes to the minstrel is how vast and unique Alfgard is. Somewhere deep in these lands lies a town of fairies, a fortress of golems. Unfortunately, from his stories, the Dark World was a place of beauty with large cities bigger than the capital, full of thick forests, open plains and farmlands, endless fields of sand and snow. Eli deeply wants to believe in the minstrel's words as everyone does, but the ideas are too outlandish. They had to have been fabricated. He reaches the minstrel, who stands at the center of a field of yellow flowers, playing his lyre. Eli is absorbed in the beautiful meadow of flowers and relaxing music, but like last time the minstrel stops, acknowledging Eli. Have you come to appreciate the scenery, or perhaps you wish to discuss more on the matter? His calm voice works its magic once more. Eli stormed out of the church with the accusations in hand of the lies the minstrel told, but now he was getting cold feet. His words leave his lips like a whisper, afraid of disturbing the old man. He worried that maybe fighting with people was all too common with the old man, and he stayed in nature to avoid the fury of people. At least, that was what Eli did. Have you been playing for a long time? You are very good. I have been playing for a while now, though I am more familiar with the flute. I picked this thing up years ago. I appreciate your words. I'm sure my father would be proud of the practice I've been putting in. Your father was a minstrel? He was. He used this lyre to woo my mother. They had a lot of differences, but they made it work. His music cheered up many people. It's all I have now to remember him. A shame the thing doesn't work anymore. Eli tilts his head and squints his eyes as he sees the man fiddling with the strings. The minstrel is looking away from Eli, out into the isolated mountains of the lake. It seems something disturbs you, the old man said, keeping his body still. The truth weighs on Eli like guilt. Now was a better time than ever to reveal it, before the priests found out. I looked into your book. A surprising chuckle echoes in the field. That explains your confusion. A dear friend of mine suggested the idea. He said with my lack of sight, I wouldn't be able to read anyways, so it would be best to have someone else do it while I gave my perspective. I wish I could see his face now. He probably wouldn't believe I actually went through with his dumb plan. So what you are saying is made up? Far from it. They come straight from memory. I don't understand. Who are you? He lifts the hood and Eli chokes on his breath. While the front of his face is away, he can see his patchy white skin and old severe burns on his exposed cheek and neck. However, what stood out the most was his long dark green hair. It flowed down to his back when he fixed it, but it looked heavily damaged, as if it was strangled of life. "You're a fairy?" I prefer to say, was. Other than my senses, I carry no magic, lesser than human, as Zoma put it. Zoma said that? Wait, his mind clicked like a puzzle falling into place. The empty book now made sense. You're Fedir, the brilliant sage. As I said, I don't like to be called that name. Most of my wisdom comes from my age. But that means everything you said was true. The Dark World, exploring the pyramid, or how you wandered the tundra. Everything you said was real. Fedir chuckles again. It's been a long time since I heard someone get excited over something so small. But keep your praises. I am a simple minstrel now, telling personal stories of this old man's journey. But your stories are amazing. You spoke of how much you have suffered through the hero's journey. You became a fairy which separated your friends. You lost your sight and ended up alone in an unknown land. However, you kept going. You're an inspiration. I should be apologizing to you for disregarding your tales. Someone I follow once told me something along the same lines. I should have known from the start her wisdom would be right. And you needn't apologize. Having skepticism keeps the mind growing and understanding. A bright light consumes Fedir's hand. He raises his arm to his face. It seems my time has come to an end. No longer must I wander the world. What do you mean? Fedir ignores his question. His tone grows serious. Eli, was it? Listen carefully to what I am about to say. A darkness looms on the horizon. A darkness? You mean Zoma? His heart races. His mind shuffles. The peace of the fields no longer comforted him. No, Zoma will never return. This is something different. A villain taking his stead. In the world, darkness will always accompany light. That is the balance of life. When darkness arrives, so will light. A hero born of Erdrick will take the mantle against evil, such as when Hotaru did. Then what are we to do? The blinding light travels up to his arm and the lyre drops to the soft soil. Keep our stories alive. Keep hope alive. The arriving times will bring harsh trials, but its people will grow strong. So that's it then. You want us to tell stories, and how do you expect me to do that? You already know that answer, Eli. It doesn't take a fairy to hear your heart cry out for adventure. The world is your oyster. He looks up in the sky. 200 years I have waited to see you all again. It's time to reunite with my family. I'm coming home. The light wraps around his torso, traveling to his legs and head. Eli walks over to the light and reaches out, but he disappears to the heavens before stepping onto his original spot. Nothing is left in place other than the lyre. Eli! The priest shouted from behind. His stomps close in at an alarming rate. Have you seen the minstrel? The people are high-strung and can't wait any longer. Eli reaches down to the lyre. Its touch is cozy like a winter campfire. He holds it close to his chest, looking up at the blue welcoming sky. He went back home, he answered. Newfound purpose in hand. The world awaited him.